Hey there, Postal here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the International Women's Day offers. There's 5 different special female pilots that you can earn in World of Warplanes. We're going to take a quick look at them starting now. Alright, so no gameplay in this particular video, but we do want to take a relatively deep look into each of these particular pilots that are available, and if they're worth any kind of money being tossed at you. So first and foremost, each of these pilots that we'll be talking about is $12 and some change through the premium shop in US dollars on North American server. That includes 2,500 gold plus the pilot. 2,500 gold by itself is $10 to $11. And so really, Wargaming's asking price for the pilots is like $2. I'll tell you right off the bat right now, $2 is definitely worth these pilots. $12 might be pushing it, but you know, your mileage may vary. It is nice that we've got the ability to get these pilots if you've got a specific use case. There's actually 3 of the pilots that are available to be moved around to any plane that you want. And the last 2 technically can be moved to other planes as well. What do I mean? Let's take a quick look. So first and foremost, I do have all 5 of these pilots, so we can take a deeper look at them. I don't have them maxed out to 15 points or anything like that. I don't have any 15-point pilots in the game, but we'll take a deep look at it as well as we can. We have Mary Loveheart here. Mary Loveheart comes pre-skilled towards the P-47B. But what's really good about the first 3 pilots we're going to be talking about here is there's no negative impact moving these pilots to new aircraft. There is a slight negative impact moving the final 2 pilots, but we'll talk about that once we get to those female pilots. Mary Loveheart here comes with 2 special skills that we're going to talk in detail about. She's really built for multi-roles or American planes that can do reasonable ground damage in certain situations, and we'll talk about that. Mary Loveheart is an American premium pilot. She comes with a special skill, Eagle's Wings. This replaces Engine Guru 1. This increases your engine thrust by 2%, which Engine Guru 1 does, but it also increases your boost duration by 10%, so you get that extra 10% boost duration time frame. Really helpful for multi-roles and heavy fighters, and I suppose bombers as well. Anything with decent amount of boost, 10% is going to be nice. The reason that I say not necessarily putting her in a bomber is because of this particular skill. So Valkyrie's Wrath. This replaces Raptor Strike. What does it do? Your bombs and rockets released in a dive cause double damage to ground targets. That's pretty significant. This takes effect when the aircraft speed approaches maximum dive speed at a pitch angle exceeding 45 degrees. What is this basically saying? We need to be diving at pretty darn good speed. Can't just be at a slight angle. You need to be and close to maximum speed. You definitely need to be in the yellow for your airspeed for this to take effect. Doing double damage is incredible, but you're going to struggle to do that in a bomber, in an American bomber, and actually be able to drop your bombs properly and not crash into the ground. So rather than putting her in any kind of B-32 kind of thing, she does really well with literally any of the multi-roles. And furthermore, some of the heavy fighters that you might do those bombing runs in. I kept her in my P-47B. I enjoy her in my P-47B. She does really well when you toss her into planes like the P-82, or even for that matter, the F-82, where you've got bombs and rockets, you've got the airspeed, you can do those diving runs. I'm able to take out a full mining facility just with this plane when I have Mary Loveheart behind the wheel. That being said, there's also a lot of people that will put her in planes that don't even have bombs on it, simply because you get the extra boost duration, and that kind of thing can really help out with your overall planes. And so there's certainly no harm in just putting her in an F-86 type of situation. That being said, she's not going to be the most effective in that, but things like F-84s, P-47s, XP-44, those kind of things, any of the Corsairs, F7U. She's going to do really well in all those multi-rolls, and that's going to be her best fit. Incredibly well, in fact. Being able to basically do double damage when you're able to get a diving attack going on. Next up is Charlotte von Stauffen. We'll see if I pronounce that properly. She comes equipped for the BF-110E, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody out there. I don't really remember. I've tried her on a lot of different setups. To be honest, I haven't found the perfect plane for her. Haven't really found her niche. But that being said, in certain situations, she can be incredibly strong. Let's take a look. She starts off with Dazzling Star. This replaces Eagle-Eyed. And so this increases the range at which enemy aircraft are detected by 40%, which is significant, and decreases the range at which the enemy aircraft can detect you by 10%. So again, it kind of makes you more of a stealth build. It's better than just a normal stealth build kind of situation. Dazzling Star certainly goes a long way for that. Furthermore, you also have Celestial Fury. This replaces Adrenaline Rush. So in a head-on attack, your pilot fires at the most vulnerable sections of the enemy aircraft. What does that mean? It improves the chance of causing critical damage to an enemy aircraft and setting it on fire in a head-on attack. And it increases the damage caused in a head-on attack by 20%. My first thought process with Charlotte was, I'd put her in a plane that I like to do head-on attacks in. I put her in like the Batwing. I put her in 262s. Problem is, nobody as good as going head on versus while you're in your Batwing or in your 262 is. A lot of people don't, they recognize that and don't go head on versus you in a BVP 210 or an ME 262. And so I wasn't really finding her to be overly effective in that. Tried her in things like the BF 110E and even the ME 410. I just kind of shied away with that. I've since put her in the FW190D, a plane that not a lot of people talk about and not a lot of people even seem to like. But this plane has two 30mm cannons, hits incredibly hard. It's a Tier 7 German multi-role fighter, but it's kind of not looked upon. And because it's a multi-role fighter, the bots will still go head-on to you as well. So I found her to be most effective in this type of plane that's strong, but kind of like sneaky strong. I've enjoyed myself flying her in the FW190D. That being said, her skill set is really situational and not always able to be utilized because it relies on the enemy continuing that head-on engagement. Whereas somebody like Mary that we just talked about, you're able to dictate the angle of attack. And somebody like Marina, who is the third female pilot that's available, you're able to dictate her specials. What are her specials, and why do I have her in the IL-40? Well, I have her in the IL-40, but you can literally put her in any Soviet ground attacker or bomber and have her be incredibly, incredibly effective. What do I mean by that? Well, first she has Supernova. This replaces Demolition Expert. So this increases the damage caused by bombs and rockets and their blast radius by 15%. So that's, a decent amount bigger than the normal 10%. If the aircraft is destroyed in a collision with the terrain or a ground target, the aircraft that you're in explodes, dealing damage in the affected area equal to double the maximum number of hit points of this aircraft. So it doesn't matter what your HP is currently, what your maximum HP is what that means. So for a plane like the IL-40, where my survivability right now is 2,700 hit points, that means if I crash into the ground in the IL-40, I will be doing about 5,400 damage to the ground, just with my aircraft. And so that's pretty darn nice, right? So that's Supernova. That replaces, like I said, Demolition Expert. You also have Femme Fatale. This replaces Evasive Target. Femme Fatale sets a ground target on fire as a result of continuous shooting with forward-firing weapons and hitting unarmored sections of the ground target. This is why I've kept her in a ground attacker, because this is a forward-firing weapon skill set. But with Supernova, having the bombs being dropped from on high from your Soviet bombers is still going to be incredibly effective. I know a lot of people that have her in their bombers. That being said, with the ground attacker, basically what this is saying is you have the ability to set buildings on fire. And once a building is on fire, and not everybody might know this, once it's on fire, you can leave it alone. It will burn down. The fire never goes out on a building. It may take a little while, but you can ignore that building and go on to other buildings. So this raises the chance of you setting buildings on fire. Basically, it raises the chances of you being able to destroy overall ground targets and get the section captured. Excellent on the IL-40, but really any ground attacker and any Soviet bomber, Marina is going to do awesomely awesome in. And she, again, you've got that ability to dictate the terms of the engagement when you're in a ground attacker like that. Those first 3 female pilots can go into any plane of their nation and not have any kind of negative impact by doing that. These last 2, although they're incredibly strong pilots, have a special skill set for a specific aircraft, and you lose that if you move them to a separate aircraft. That being said, a lot of people still move them because there's the extra skill set that they have is so strong even without the specific skill point. What do I mean? So let's take a quick look at Akira Akane. She has first and foremost the A6M5 Master. So she's a Japanese fighter pilot specifically geared towards the Tier 6 Japanese fighter plane. The A6M5 Master replaces the aerobatics expert on this plane, and it increases the maneuverability and damage inflicted by the forward firing weapons by 10%. It increases the maneuverability by 10%. That's mind-boggling because the maneuverability on the A6M5, as many of you might know, is already incredibly strong. And by increasing the damage that you're doing with your forward firing weapons, really making this plane a glass cannon. It's already very weak as far as an airframe is concerned. It sets on fire, wings get knocked out all the time, but by being able to do that extra damage is significant. By being able to have incredible maneuverability, like god tier maneuverability, you can do some crazy things. I've actually got this plane with a complete speed build. You see I've got speed paint on here, I've done polished skin, and I've got the engine guru on here, and my maneuverability is still 7-second turn time, 111 maneuverability. Now if you run into somebody that has a turn build on this plane, I'm quite sure they've got it down to 6 seconds on the turn time and just turns on a dime. Kind of ridiculous, right? But some players will move this pilot to other planes. Why would they do that? There's a skill called Hunter's Grip. This replaces Marksman 1. This increases the burst length and the firing range of the forward firing armament by 10%. Now this skill works on any plane. So you could put this on something like a Ki 93, a Tier 7, that's the Tier 7 Japanese heavy fighter, or a Ki 102, the Tier 6 version of that, giving those planes that have derpy type cannons extra range and extra burst length. Don't care if you're missing out on the maneuverability because you're in a heavy fighter, and that extra range and burst length has an impact on any plane, a Japanese plane of course, and she's a Japanese premium pilot, so she can be very effective in basically any Japanese plane. So quite a few people will put her in other planes, even though they're missing out on the 2 points for the A6M5 Master. I personally haven't done that, but that's going to be completely up to you if you happen to choose her as one of the pilots. So last but not least is Millie Elliott. Millie Elliott is a pilot built around the Tier 6 British multi-role fighter, the Tornado. She specifically has Tornado Expert skill. This skill replaces the Protection Expert. This skill increases the aircraft's hit points and damage inflicted by the forward-firing weapons by 10%. So you get that extra 10% hit points, get a little bit of the tinky buff going on there, and you're also able to do 10% more damage with your forward-firing armament. The 20mm cannons on the Tornado are already very strong. Tornado is a very good all-around multi-role fighter. Built more around air-to-air combat as it is very maneuverable for a multi-role fighter and can do some decent damage. You got some bombs or rockets that you're able to drop, but that's really not the focus of the Tornado. That being said, a lot of people will take Millie Elliott and put her in other planes because of her air acrobat skill. This replaces the aerobatics expert skill point, and it increases the maneuverability by 4% and the accuracy when firing at actively maneuvering targets by 10%. This skill point can be used on any aircraft, and so a lot of people will put this on something like their Swift. They'll put this on some of their Spitfires and give them even more maneuverability. 4% maneuverability is incredibly strong, especially on planes that are already maneuverable like the Spitfires. And it can certainly help with something like the Swift, which isn't incredibly maneuverable, but more maneuverable than people think. The fact that you also get a 10% buff to your accuracy against actively maneuvering targets is very helpful for something like the Swift or the Attacker, where you're relying on those heavier cannons to actually hit. And if you're dogfighting another fighter, they're actively maneuvering, you're actively maneuvering, that 10% is going to come into effect here. So again, as far as the 5 pilots, female pilots that are available for International Women's Day, they are actually quite strong overall. Even the A6M5 and the Tornado-based pilots are used very often in other planes. The only one that's really kind of is Charlotte, and that's simply because her skill set relies on the enemy to be a little doofusy. Whereas Mary and Marina and Akira and Millie, you've got control over their skill set and how that is implemented. As I've already mentioned, the cost of each of these is $12 to $13. I think in the US it's $12.63. And if you buy them individually, you'll get 2,500 gold with each package that you purchase. If you buy all 5 of them together for basically the same price as, it's $12.83 added together, for basically the same price as that, you'll get 15,000 gold plus the pilots with skill points already given to you, and you'll get extra boosters on top of that, which give an incredible boost to your crew XP. Now, whether or not that's something that's up your alley, I don't know, $60 is a lot, $63, whatever it ends up being. So it's hard for me to say, oh, okay, definitely can go ahead and justify that. But you might be looking at these planes and these pilots and say, oh, you know what? A, I love the Tornado and I'd love to love it even more. Or, B, I know somewhere exactly where I could put this particular pilot. And that's going to be really up to you. I can't tell you that that's what you want to do with your money. It's your money. I'm not going to tell you not to spend it. You just need to know that that's something that you find viable and something that you want to be able to spend your money on. Do keep in mind there is some background art when it comes to the first 3 pilots that we spoke of. So you can see Charlotte here in the background. When we click on Marina, you can see Marina here in the background. And then you can also see Mary in the background here as well. You'd see that on any plane that they happen to be on. Those are the only 3 that have that option of these 5. And although they can be incredibly strong, it is a lot of money. $60 for pilots, completely up to you. I'll just leave it at that. I hope this helped give you some additional information in regards to these particular pilots. If you've got any more detailed questions, ask it in the chat below. Feel free to send me a comment. I'll be happy to answer as quickly as I can. Or you can continue the conversation in my Discord. My community is more than happy to help out. A lot of them have these pilots already, and we'd be happy to give you their take on them, what planes they happen to put them in, where they find them most effective. And that way you can make an informed decision before you jump to any kind of conclusions. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this slightly different video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.